Hey guys, it's John and Shannon from That DIY Couple, and today we're doing our December 2019 net worth update.
So it's the moment that the approximately 4 people who watch this have been waiting for. Our December finances.
You're welcome.
How much money did we spend on paying down debt? What do our debts look like? What do our assets look like? And what does our net worth look like? And
so we've been doing this every month for the past couple months, and we also took you guys through our net worth journey from when we graduated from college up until today. If you haven't checked out our previous videos on our channel about our net worth, I would highly recommend checking them out. It would give you a little bit more context for what we're doing. Essentially what we're doing is trying to look at our net worth over time and hoping that it goes in an upward trajectory in the past and hopefully in the future. So every month what we do on this channel is update you guys on our assets, our debts, and talk about a little bit how we got in that position, if it was a good month, if it was a bad month, and we're hoping to keep this series going for the indefinite future. So as with all the previous videos, if you have any questions about our net worth, our strategy, our thoughts on debt, we have a whole video on debt that we'll put a link to in the description here that you can check out on. But we'd love to hear them, and feel free to comment and let us know down below.
And just as a little refresher, about 10 years ago, graduated from undergrad, and then we went to law school, and when we graduated from graduate school, we had about $300,000 of student loans, and today our net worth has climbed to be pushing close to $1 million. So you can go back and you can see that trajectory. And in terms of where we're trying to go, we are aiming for FatFIRE, which means retiring early, or having the option to at least, in style. And so we have pretty lofty net worth goals down the line. But let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So this is a picture of us at Christmas time. We went to California on a really cool trip, and this is us from Disneyland. So we had a great time.
It was awesome. Here's our debts. So as you guys can see, back in November of 2019, we had $21,400 in credit card debt. We paid that down in December to now it's just around $5,000. So we paid off about $16,000 of credit card debt in December, which is awesome. As a reminder, all of our credit card debt was at 0%. So we played a lot of games with credit cards where we would basically put our regular everyday living expenses on 0% cards and then use that money to invest, because we were like, oh, it's simple math. You can beat the market if you can borrow cheaply. But we have decided not to do that anymore because it's a little nuts. So we are on a debt pay down rampage right now.
The student loans that we have had since we graduated from graduate school, we're not really paying those down aggressively, although we're going to change that in 2020. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But the change in a month is just whatever the minimum payments are for that month. And the same is true with our house payments and our investment property debt. All those stuff we're sort of slow paying or just not focusing on paying them off right now. So the changes on a month-to-month basis are just kind of whatever we have to pay for the minimums to maintain the debt.
So we've added a new column since the last month of the year, the year-to-date column. And this shows how much we've paid off in the entire year. So what's interesting is that the credit card debt is now around $5,088, and in December of 2018 we also had about $5,000 in credit card debt, still always at 0%. We never have credit card debt on a high percentage interest card or something. But it looks like the year-to-date change then is just $88. But what's interesting is that it sort of ignores the fact that we incurred about 80 grand of everyday living expenses on credit cards during the course of 2019, which we have really aggressively paid down just in the later half of the year. So it sort of understates that figure. But the student loans have gone down about 16 grand over the course of the year. Our house's mortgage has actually gone up by 217 grand, and that's because we bought a bigger house. And our investment property debt has gone up by 224,000 because we bought more investment properties.
Actually, I think it's mostly because we converted our house to an investment property, our old house.
Oh, correct, yeah. Our car loan, we paid this off earlier this year. I just wanted to show that in the course of the year we had paid off the remainder of our car, which was about 6 grand. So in total, all of our debts over the course of 2019 went up by 420,000, and that's almost exclusively because we bought a new $500,000 house.
So the next slide is our debts as a pie chart. So you can see what proportion of our debts is what. And the changes between December and November are pretty minimal, except that credit card debt changed from 1% to 0% of our total overall debts.
So we still have credit card debt, but it's such a small percentage right now that it sort of comes out in the wash and it shows up as 0 here. And what you're seeing is that our investment properties have gone up to from 69 to 70, and our student loans have stayed the same. So
the next slide is our asset slide. So this is my favorite slide because it shows the positive side of the net worth calculation. So the changes between December and November were not very great. We don't really reevaluate the value of things like our investment properties and our house because I think month-to-month fluctuations are a little bit crazy. So maybe once every quarter we'll try to update that to see if it reflects the market. So those are essentially 0. We've increased the amount of money in our retirement accounts. That's again just due to automatic saving, putting money away from paychecks directly into tax advantage accounts.
So we're putting a little bit under $5,000 away every month into tax advantaged accounts just to max out our options there.
We vastly increased the amount of checking and money in our checking and savings accounts, and that's almost exclusively from Shannon's bonus. So Shannon gets paid at the end of the year a bonus on her salary, and we use that to pay back some credit card debt, and we're keeping the rest in our checking account because we want to refinance Shannon's student loans coming up very soon. So that's a big thing that's gonna, now that we're done with our credit card debt, we're gonna really aggressively focus on 2 more debts, which are our house and the student loans. We're hoping to refinance the student loans, get a lower interest rate such that we're able to, right now we have a 20-year term, I think. We want to get a 5-year term, which is going to cut the interest rate in half. It's going to increase our monthly payments, but in order to do that refinancing, we have to have a certain amount of the balance in our checking account. So we're just keeping it in our checking account until we can go through the refinance process. And because of the holidays and Christmas and New Year's, it's a little bit slow, but we're hoping that's going to happen this month in January in 2020.
So our checking and savings went up by $31,000 in the course of the month, and that's a reflective of a portion of my prorated bonus. So it's important to note that this calendar year I only worked for part of the year at this job because I changed jobs. So we used to have a tax refund on our asset sheet that was due, that was paid out, so that's gone. And our personal property and value of our car have both stayed the same, but our business accounts went up by about $17,000.
I think it's just normal variability. At the end of the year, sometimes there are different expenses and assets and things that are deposited. So
in total, that's a pretty big change of $51,000 in the course of a month that our assets went up, mostly because of my bonus and the changes in the business accounts.
And the year to date is the really cool thing. That went up by almost $600,000. Mostly that's because we acquired a new house and switched our old house to an investment property, and then a little bit of changes in things like our checking account. But on the next slide, you can see a pie chart of our assets. This breaks down the proportion of our assets, what percentage of our assets is invested or is represented by different stuff. And you can see the vast majority of our assets are still in investment properties. Our long-term goal is to diversify our assets by increasing our retirement accounts and tax-advantaged accounts, invest in the stock market more. But right now it's very, very largely in investment properties.
So you can see we've taken a small baby step towards doing that here, because in November, our investment properties represented 79% of our assets, and our retirement and investment accounts were just 2%. And this month, our investment properties are 78%, and our retirement and investment accounts are 3%. And so we're hoping to grow retirement and investment accounts and shrink the investment properties until we're about 50-50, because we don't want to be so exposed to real estate in the long run. One thing that I'm kind of proud of is that both of our personal property and our car rounds to 0 when it comes to looking at our overall asset ratio. And so I think some people have, when they calculate that, they're like, oh, I have so much stuff, I have so much expensive things, and I have a nice car, and that's worth something. But I'm really proud of the fact that we are like super frugal and don't spend a lot of money on those types of things which just depreciate immediately.
The next slide is our net worth calculation slide. And as a reminder, net worth is calculated by taking total assets and subtracting total debts. So in December, we calculated our net worth at just above $900,000, almost $910,000, which is a tremendous increase, I think, in a single month. of over $70,000. And a lot of that is from the debt pay down and from the fact that we have more money in our checking account. But overall, year to date, which is I think maybe the more interesting number, we increased our net worth by almost $200,000, which is I think a huge amount, given that we had a ton of unexpected expenses this year, ranging from a fire at one of our houses, moving houses, renovating a house. We went on our honeymoon this year. So I think overall this year, financially, we did really well. I'm really happy about that.
Absolutely. So as you guys know, John and I calculate net worth in a more conservative way. So a lot of people, when they think about net worth, think, okay, what's everything I own minus everything I owe, and that's how you get net worth. But when we think about it, we want to use this net worth calculation as a metric to how we're doing towards the ability to be financially independent and retire early. And so if everything were to go wrong in life, or I needed to retire for some reason, we wouldn't want to give up, for example, our car or our personal property or our home. And so we exclude those things from our net worth calculation for the purposes of gauging how we're doing financially. So we take our total assets and subtract the value of our home, our personal property, and our car, and then we also subtract our debt. And so in December of 2019, our conservative calculation of net worth was around $334,000, whereas in November, it was around $267,000, for a change of $71,000 in a single month.
So that's the same as the normal net worth calculation, because all the change in net worth was not in the things that Shannon just mentioned, not in our house, our car, or personal property.
And the reason we like calculating it this way is because it actually drives our behavior in a really productive way, because it causes us to spend less money on those things which don't really help us in terms of our financial position. But interestingly, our conservative net worth calculation shows that over the course of 2019, our net worth by this metric went down by $10,000. And that is because we bought a bigger house, which is what we exclude from the calculation. So right. I love this because it's sending us a signal, which is don't buy more stuff, don't buy a bigger house, don't buy more property, don't buy a nicer car, when those don't actually improve your financial position.
The next slide is our net worth this year. So we're changing up the slides a little bit because we realized in previous presentations we had the sort of time scale messed up on the x-axis. So it looked like just the graph was essentially wrong. So we're going to show our net worth change in a given year, like month by month, and then we're going to show on the slide after this change year by year. But this is our net worth change for this year.
So this is very flat because we don't have a ton of data. We just started doing this exercise this year. So we did our net worth in May, and then again in September, October, November, and December. So you don't see a ton of changes, but you do see between May and September, when we bought the new house, you can see that our you can see both the traditional net worth and the conservative net worth went down, but the conservative net worth went down a lot more due to the fact that we calculate it in the way that we described. But you can see that basically our assets are above our liabilities, which means that we are net worth positive.
And the next slide I think is maybe the more interesting slide. This is our net worth over time, year by year. So you can see when we first started doing this exercise in 2008, what our net worth was, 2013, 2014, all the way up to now. So you can see the yellow and the blue lines are our net worth. Yellow is traditional net worth, blue is our conservative net worth. But you can see they dipped negative between 2013 and 2015, 2016, and then they have rebounded in the positive level. So
and that's because we were in school and taking out student loans in my case.
So the upward trend, the trend of the graph is upward though. As you can see, our assets outpace our debts sometime in 2015, and now they're kind of healthily above it. So we're really hoping, I think, that 2020 is going to be the year where we get $1 million in the traditional net worth calculation. We're going to be way short of that in our conservative net worth calculation, but I think that'll be really cool. We actually were kind of close to that at some point in 2019 before we bought the house.
Yeah.
But we're going to get back to that point, and I'm excited to see where we're going to be at the end of 2020.
What I want to see over time is I want the green to keep growing and I want the pink to keep going down. And a lot of you guys have commented that you're like uncomfortable with the level of debt that we have. Keep in mind that we are real estate investors, and so the vast majority of our assets, like 3-point-something million, are tied up in real estate, which is encumbered by leverage. That debt is basically like 3% and lower, 3 or 4% and lower, 30-year fixed mortgages, which are...
It's 4.5% and lower.
4.5%.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything lower than 3%. That would be insane.
Sorry, I'm thinking of the student loans, which have a lower rate. But basically that debt is like very low interest, 30-year fixed mortgage, not really callable. I mean, conceivably callable, but no likely world would it be callable by the bank. And it's rented out and cash flows every month. So what's going to happen over time is you're going to see that green line continuing to go up as the assets appreciate. And you're going to see the pink line going down naturally without us really having to focus on it because our tenants are paying those debts. So over the course of the next 30 years, by the time that John and I are in our 60s, we're going to own all of those assets free and clear with no leverage on them, just by virtue of the fact that we are landlords and these are cash generating assets.
Yeah, and we're probably not going to incur any more debt, certainly not consumer debt, but probably not investment debt for the next few years, because our goal with investing is to diversify out of real estate. So we're going to be investing more in the stock market, index funds, tax advantage accounts, things like that, in which we're not going to be incurring debt to invest in them. So hopefully, I would say we expect that the amount of debt that we have right now is going to be like at its maximum point, and then it's going to be decreasing in the next couple of years.
So as you guys know, in October, we decided to embrace Dave Ramsey and focus on debt pay down. So let's take a look at what we did in December specifically. So we paid off 16 grand in credit cards, 1,000, which is just the minimum on my student loans. Our house is mortgaged, this is just the principal, 600, and just the principal on the 30-something investment properties that we have here. So that's a total of $20,000 in 1 month. And if you go to the next slide, you see that this is our debt graveyard, everything that we have paid off since we decided to really focus on debt pay down.
So we paid down about 50 grand in October, about 30 grand in November, and about 20 grand in December. So that's a total of over 100 grand of debt that we paid down in 3 months, which I think is a ton.
That's a crazy quarter.
It's a crazy amount, yeah.
Yeah, that was like, I think this just goes to show, like, when you're at these higher incomes, when you have higher amounts of debt, what you can, like the big scale of numbers that you can do if you really focus on it and get gazelle intense.
Although, I think that the way to think about it is we have a large hole and also a large shovel. Correct. So the concept is the same. If you just kind of scale the numbers down, it's the same idea, just larger numbers in general.
Right.
But we're going to be doing this again, update you in January. I think we're going to have a lot more debt paydowns. Maybe we'll refinance our student loans by then, which will be really cool. We really appreciate you guys watching these videos. If you have any comments on our debt journey, any thoughts, please let us know down below. If you like this video and want to see more content, please subscribe, give us a thumbs up, share with other people. It really helps us to keep making content like this. And until next time,
do well and always make things better.